Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Let's get started. We are going to talk today about the right for cause argument essay. Okay, so we have a few things that this essay is intended to do. The first thing it's meant to do is to connect the various parts of the semester together so that you can see at the end of the semester that you have uh, started in one place and ended in another. So that's part one. This has been a journey. We started with our My Plan assessment and attempting to discover our right for cause topic. That was intended to be self-reflective. It was intended for personal growth or maybe professional growth. We also had a chance to think about our natural abilities and think more earnestly about who we are and maybe what we are supposed to be offering to the world. And so your right for a cause topic and your My Plan assessment in concert, we're supposed to take you from where you start at the beginning of the semester and kind of drag or anchor or move you, for some of us, into a more I don't know, satisfying point of view about life, and that you actually have the ability to write and create change for things that are meaningful to you, things that matter to you. So hopefully you were able to get that out of the course, and now at the end of the semester, you feel more confident about writing for your cause. Before I go any further, if your microphone is on, I'm going to ask you to do the favor of muting it. Therefore, won't be a lot of feedback in our webinar. All right, and then once you have a question, feel free to unmute it and just simply ask. So that's kind of the big picture of what happened this semester, or at least what was supposed to happen in this semester. Some of the takeaways are things that you're going to use in your next class in 1302, or things that maybe you're already using in history, or things that you're using in biology, study skills, tangible things like that. But also other things like knowing how to write a preliminary bibliography, knowing how to summarize content that you found from scholarly sources, which is not an easy thing to do. That is actually pretty difficult exercise, but you did it, and now you know how to write an annotated bibliography, which for some of us is going to help us professionally know how to put together a report based upon research and offer it for greater credibility in the workplace. And for others of us, it may send us to graduate school, and you may have to write an annotated bibliography, which is a part of writing in a master's program or a doctorate program. So many of us are going to do it in 1302. So you took away those skills, and those skills are invaluable. The next thing that you learned in this class was the research proposal. And through the research proposal, you learned how to write a proposal. So when you want to get things done in any part of life, you know how to get people on your side, and you know how to present research that lets them know that you are a trustworthy source because you know how to access and explain information in a way that is not only good and strong, but also in a way that is professional and polished. So you now know how to write a proposal to get things done in your workplace or in your community. What's more is that you learn the power of persuasion. And we know in our current day and time that people put all kinds of opinions out there, but they don't always have facts attached to it. So you take that away from the course. You also learned about short answer responses, right? And I use these even in my daily life when I'm emailing my boss, where I need to, let them know this is what we are doing, or this is what our committee has done. Here's the evidence to support it, and here's what we plan to do with it. So through learning claim, evidence, and warrant, learning how to write those paragraphs and sandwich information between a topic sentence, evidence, and then an explanation. That skill is the gift that will keep on giving, not just for you, but also for your family and for your employers. And the last thing that we did was we learned the analytical essay. And the analytical essay is our big essay. And it's where you had to take one small aspect of your topic, of your right for cause topic, and you had to just give information about it. You couldn't persuade me to do anything. You couldn't let loose on that. Instead, you just had to just give me the facts and give me explanations, which is actually really difficult to do because you're explaining very precise information from, really strong scholars, and you're having to make it, in some way, bite-sized for me, an audience who's not an expert on your topic, to understand. And you guys, from what I've seen so far with the papers, did a really good job with that. There are some things that you will take away from all of these assignments that will play a part in the final examination. For instance, with the analytical essay, you'll use the same introduction format that you use for the analytical essay. For the body paragraphs, you're going to use the same claim, evidence, warrant as you did in the short answer response, but it's also the same format that you used in the analytical essay with the body paragraphs. We had to give a topic sentence, evidence, context, and then an explanation. So you'll do that here in the final exam as well. You'll also write strong conclusions using the reflect and project method, where you'll leave a lasting impression on your audience. So we did this in the research proposal, and you had a little bit more leeway to kind of emotionally get me all involved in your research, and then leave a lasting impression where I am thinking about what you were talking about in your research later. For the analytical essay, you still had to give me facts and remain in the objective tone and just reflect back on your topics, and then project what those topics may look like in the future. This time, you get the wonderful pleasure of just hammering down on your major points. So now, with the argument essay, you get a chance to look at the conclusion in a way where you reflect back on your topics, but when you project, you get a chance to project with power and force, saying that, I should, get involved with your cause. I must feel a part of this process to improve whatever outcome you're talking about. So you can speak with conviction. One of the best conclusion paragraphs that I've had a chance to read, of a lot of things that I've read, is in Hillary Clinton's Women's Rights or Human Rights. The whole speech itself is good, which is why we added it in our course, but the conclusion is particularly powerful. In the conclusion, she gives a repeated idea of it's a violation, and then she gives you a graphic image. It's a violation. She gives you a horrendously graphic image. It's a violation. She gives you yet another graphic image. So we see women being doused with gasoline. We see babies being, killed and their spines being broken because they're girls. We hear about, the horrible things that happen to women because of their gender. And she pounds in this idea of it's a violation, it's a violation, it's a violation. And she leaves the reader with these horrible images, but they leave a lasting impression because her call to action is for everyone in the world, people and government, to stand up for women and say that women's rights are in fact human rights. And so they shouldn't have their human rights violated because they're women. And she wants the world to break their silence and speak about it. So in your conclusion, as we think about the final examination, as opposed to maybe the analytical essay, you want to end powerfully. You want to know and want me to know that this is your final chance to get me, your audience, or whoever else you imagine as your audience, to get on board with your topic and to change my life and support the things that you also support. And this is a wonderfully freeing experience, trust me. And you're probably going to feel great about life once this paper is over with, for two reasons. A, it's over with, and then B, you have something that really represents something that you are very passionate about. So the conclusion paragraph is going to be a bit different in the final exam as it was in the as it was in the analytical essay, mainly because you get a chance to use more power in that conclusion response or in that conclusion paragraph. So what else are we doing? So we're taking all of the information that we collected rather, in the preliminary bibliography assignment, and we're going to use that for the works cited. So you're going to get a chance to clean those sources, make sure that they are all formatted properly, make sure that they're alphabetized, make sure that you don't have capitalization or italics errors, or that the hyperlinks are not there. You know, you want to check for all that stuff. You want to make sure that you have access dates. You know, you want to make sure that you have a section entitled Works Cited. You know, so you want to make sure that you have all of these things. And all of this is what we covered in the analytical paper, but in the final exam, I'm going to see if you can remember to do it on your own without me having to remind you with checklists and revisions and all this other stuff. Okay, so we have a strong sense of what the semester was supposed to offer, and I think we have an idea of how this information connects to our final examination. Does anyone have any questions about an overview of the semester and how what we've learned all together as a group connects to the final exam?
Will this final exam be the same organization as the analytic essay?
Yes, so we will use the same format as the analytical essay right there. All right.
Okay, thank
And
you.
yeah, and specifically, don't forget you'll create the engaging introduction. It'll lead to a strong thesis. You'll look at responsibly researched information. In other words, information that comes from a scholarly peer-reviewed journal, not a random website or something like that. You'll offer well-developed paragraphs using topic sentences, you know, evidence and explanation, significance, all those things we learned. And then I spent a lot of time talking about the conclusion. And then you'll also make sure that you use the same format with the conclusion with reflect and project and leaving a lasting impression on your audience.
Do we, is there a limit on the sources that we use, or is it just kind of up to us from the preliminary bibliography?
You can use as many as you want from the preliminary bibliography. As long as they're already approved or already graded, then you're good.
Okay. Is there a word count?
There is a word count. We'll look at the assignment here in a couple seconds.
Oh, okay.
But we don't have to use all of the sources, right?
No, you do not. You get to pick and choose. As a rule of thumb, you shouldn't use one source because that doesn't make for a good argument. You want your content to come from multiple sources because it makes you more credible and it makes your essay more believable. Those are great questions. Are there any other questions?
Last one for me. Do we have to include our MyPlan stuff in this one?
You do not. The MyPlan stuff is not a part of this essay. The MyPlan was just a part of the preliminary, just a part of the research proposal because you had to give your reason for research, and I wanted to see if you could put that into context.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? Okay, let's talk about this essay. The final argument essay should be over your right for a cause topic. It should be an argument that is meant to persuade, so you are going to use the subjective tone. When we say the subjective tone, there are a couple of things about it that are freeing, and that is that if you slip into first person, that's fine. If you use second person, it's not usually fine in writing that you use second person, but it's definitely more forgivable in the subjective tone than it is in the objective tone. And another thing that's cool about the subjective tone is that you can tell stories. You can give anecdotes in order to support what you're saying, right? So a couple things we want to keep in mind. Number one, you want to take a stance on your topic and argue for your cause. So you're not just giving me information, you are literally making an argument. And an argument is basically persuasion that's supported by facts, okay? Next, this information should be persuasive and it should offer factual evidence. So any opinion that you offer has to be supported by facts. Okay, if you want to use your personal story in order to develop a body paragraph, that's fine. These are personal anecdotes, but they must be supported by facts and research. Okay, so it can't just be a story in and of itself. And that's kind of what I say right there. And then just a structural note, research should go before or after each anecdote. Okay, so I should literally be able to see how your story relates back to evidence that you've offered. Are there any questions on these uh, 5 freeing ideas?
Does the research apply if we use the anecdote approach for the intro?
No, you can use an anecdotal introduction in order to get the reader's attention and to lead them to your thesis. So it has a different function there. An anecdote inside of a body paragraph is just you offering evidence alongside your research to personalize what you're saying, to make it more believable and more persuasive.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great question. Are there any other questions? Okay, a couple of things, and these things I'm sure you already know, but there are things that I have to say because I want to make sure that there are no slip-ups at the end of the semester, given that your essay is due, kind of right before school ends. The only difference between the analytical essay and the final exam essay is that your intent is to persuade. And so that's one thing to know. Keep in mind that the analytical essay and the argument essay are not the same essays. They are 2 totally different essays with 2 totally different thesis statements. So what you're talking about in your analytical essay is a narrowed, small aspect of your right for a cause topic, which is a really broad topic. What you're talking about in your argument essay, the final exam essay, is your right for a cause topic. So you're taking that broad topic and you can narrow it down to one aspect if you'd like to and argue for just that one aspect, or you can leave that thing nice and broad and you can just go for it with your favorite points that you've been wanting to argue for all semester. Is there any question about the difference between these 2 essays?
Which way would you suggest doing?
It's up to you. It depends on how passionate you are about your topic and how much you know about your topic. I find that the very broad topic approach is easier because you can literally have topic sentences that, fit your fancy, if you will. Whatever it is that you like is what your pet topics you can talk about. Whereas with a more narrow point of view, the benefit to that is that if you only really know one aspect of your big right for a cause topic, then you can find comfort in just having them talk about that one small idea in 3 or 4 different ways. So it depends on how you work.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
of course. Are there any other questions? Okay, all right. So keep in mind, um, you will work on this by yourself. This is not an essay that you will meet with me about, so that we won't have conferences before, and I help you shape and look at your ideas and all this other stuff. I literally want to see what you learned this semester, and I want to see if you're able to kind of tackle this essay on your own, and I am over the moon excited about these papers. I want to see how well you do, but don't feel like you're completely on your own. If you have questions about the structure or questions about a general idea about the assignment, definitely feel free to reach out as you always do. If you feel like you want support from the Writing Center, 100% okay. You can reach out to the Writing Center and they can walk with you through your paper, which is why we start on it this week as opposed to next week, so that you have more time to get those appointments in at the Writing Center. Keep in mind, you still get 1 point on your final grade each time you go to the Writing Center. Okay, so this information we don't need to know anymore. Discussion question 10, we don't need to know anything about that anymore. And then let's look at the RTL lab. Hi, RTL lab. We don't need to know anything about that anymore. But we do need to know about the right for cause argument essay. Okay, so here is your quiz and here are the instructions. It says in the space below, write an argument essay supporting the cause you've researched this semester. Write a well-developed essay that includes a strong introductory statement and a persuasive thesis in the introduction paragraph. At least 3 body paragraphs which offer a clear topic sentence and various types of examples, and the conclusion paragraph that connects the essay together through the reflect and project method. This essay should be 750 to 1,500 words. And of course, as always, you'll write in the text box right down here. If you want to write it on Google Docs first, or if you want to write it on a Word file and then copy and paste it in, feel free. Don't forget, you want to make sure that you separate your paragraphs. You want to make sure that your italics, also are still there when you're mentioning your journal articles. I'm sorry, when you're mentioning the journals your articles were published in. So you want all of those things to also translate. Are there any questions for me about the writing prompt and your expectations?
Okay, so like on the word count, I know you said you were okay with it before, but if we do get into it and it winds up taking more than 1,500 words, is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I will always read more and it won't bother me. Remember, those ranges are really there just to remind you that you shouldn't have anything less than 750. And at 1,500, I mean, you're saying a lot, but if you want to say more, get it all out of your system. I want to hear it. But you kind of want to, if you can, press pause maybe right around 1,300 words so that you kind of ease into those last 200 words to make it to 1,500. Usually you want to kind of meet somewhere right in the middle of the range when you're writing the essay.
Yes, ma'am. Will do.
Is the essay still in third person, or can it be in first person for this one?
Okay, so that's a great question. When you think about the subjective tone can use first person and third person. Usually when you're writing for an academic audience, you should always write in third person. I have to say that, but for this paper, for English 1301, you definitely can use first person as well. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'd shy away from second person just because it's so informal to where it sometimes is ineffective and it's distracting to your audience.
When you said that stuff needed to be italicized, was that for the works cited page?
For the works cited, there are 2 levels of italics in there. So the first level of italics in the works cited is going to be the journal that the article was published in, right? Okay. And the second area of italics is going to be the database, so EBSCO or Gale. So you want to make sure that those 2 things are still italicized. However, if someone is referencing the journal that their article was written in the body paragraphs, then those journals would still need to be italicized in the body paragraphs.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It's a great question. Are there any other questions? No? Are you sure? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we found this is hard to ask, but you know how when the analytical essay we have to find
a little bit louder. I can't hear you. Just one.
You know how in the analytical essay where we have to give parenthetical citations, do we have to do that in?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Listen, guys, everything that you've learned in the analytical paper applies here. Remember, you want to protect yourself from plagiarism. You always want to offer those parenthetical citations to document where you're getting your information from. So yes, absolutely. Please don't forget them.
However, in the introduction and conclusion, we don't necessarily have to cite if we're not using it for evidence, right?
So in the conclusion, there shouldn't be any evidence at all, right? So this should just be major details that you're reflecting on from the body paragraphs. In the introduction, if you are using a shocking statistic from, say, a popular source, then you just need to tell me that where that popular source, when this shocking statistic was offered and where. So you can say Los Angeles Times reported in 2019 that blah, 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 shocking statistic. So that still tells me where it came from, which still protects you. So you don't need a parenthetical citation for that. However, any evidence that you offer from your scholarly sources in any other place should always be documented in those body paragraphs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and keep in mind, if you get another English 1302, if you get an English 1302 professor who wants even your popular source documented in your introduction paragraph, they're not wrong. It's just, I think that it's overkill. So it's a professor preference. But many people think that it's too much to cite a popular source for an introductory statement. Another question? No more questions? Okay. As I am preparing to close out, I just want to tell you all thank you so much for an amazing semester. You guys have been fantastic. And I've enjoyed reading the analytical papers and all of the conferences and everything that we've done. I really value all of your effort. I value your tenacity, your revisions, your is this right, or what do you think? I value that, and I appreciate you for entrusting me with your education. I don't take that lightly, and I wish all of you the absolute best. And don't forget, once you're my student, you're always my student. You're always welcome to come back, and I will always help you with your work if you need anything. And that goes for your work in class or outside of class. All right. Thank you so much for such a wonderful semester, and I look forward to reading your final exam papers. This is our last webinar. Have a good end of term, and good luck on all of your final exams. See you later.
Bye, thank you.
You're welcome.
Happy early Mother's Day, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. All right. Let me
Thank you for how hands-on you've been as a teacher and for how much you've helped us all out. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Really, thank you for everything.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Actually, I do have a question. Can I just stay
Yes.
and ask you? Okay, perfect. Thank
Let me
you.
go ahead and stop the recording, and then we will answer our questions. Goodbye, everybody in webinar world. See you later.